Thank you for being with us for the Senate Republican Caucus Long-Term Care Payroll Tax News Conference. With us today, Senators John Braun, Curtis King, Linda Wilson, and Chris Gildon. I'm your host, Trace Gills. We'll get to questions in just a moment, but we'll kick things off with Senate Republican leader John Braun.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. And thanks, everyone, for being here this afternoon. I think we decided to have this press conference just to open up the discussion once again on this long-term care payroll tax bill that was initially passed clear back in 2019. It's a troubling bill, although I would certainly acknowledge, and I think many of us have for several years now, it's a real problem. It's just not a real solution for the problem. You know, folks need to think about and plan for the cost of long-term care as part of their financial planning. It's a good idea, and there are options out here. The problem with the proposal that was passed by the Democratic majority, of course, in 2019 is that it doesn't work. And there's nothing wrong. In fact, there's lots right about recognizing big problems and trying to solve them. But sometimes when you do that, you come up with a solution that sounds good, but when you actually do the math, it doesn't work out. That's what we have here, a solution that simply doesn't work. The people of the state of Washington know it doesn't work. You know the background as well as I do, and passed in 2019. Virtual silence from state government for nearly 2 years while they prepared for it, hoping that no one would notice. And then as 2022, as the deadline approached to start collecting the payroll tax, people across the state of Washington started to understand what was coming and were very upset about it. And as a result, the Democratic majority decided, and what I think is surely a political move, to delay it in 2022 so that it didn't have to be collected until the 1st of July this year. So here we are for the 1st of July in 2023. Folks, again, across the state sort of forgot about it for about a year and a half, and now they're not forgetting about it. They're getting their paychecks starting this week with this payroll tax deduction in there. And for some folks, it's going to make the difference between whether they can afford to pay their mortgage or pay their rent or pay their car payment or not, because it's going to take money out every week starting this week, or every pay period starting this week. It's just not a solution that's going to solve the costs of long-term care, and it's going to be one more step that makes Washington state unaffordable for a whole group of workers. So we're here to talk about that today, and also introduce a new bill that we've developed and will drop as soon as it's done with the Code Reviser. And that's a bill that would simply make it optional. You know, we've had bills that repealed it. We've had proposed bills that would send it to the voters. We've had bills that would even reform it or replace it. None of those have been acceptable to the Democratic majority, and we're going to propose another one that simply says, how about we just make it optional? If it's really such a great idea, the people of the state of Washington are capable and smart, and they can decide for themselves. So that's what this bill does. It says it's optional. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to participate. You don't have to explain why. You don't have to prove you have another plan. You're just going to opt out. And I think that is the sort of flexibility that folks across the state are looking for. It also allows that if you are opting out now before the end of the year, you could get a refund for the premiums made during that time period while you're waiting for your exemption to go through. So it's a very straightforward bill. And happy to take questions about that bill. But first, I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues, starting with Senator Curtis King from the 14th Legislative District, to share his thoughts on this situation. Curtis. You're muted, Curtis. Now I think he is frozen, so we will.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We got you.
I can't see anything, but maybe you can see me, I hope. Anyway, thank you, John. I apologize. I'm not the greatest technician when it comes to this stuff, but thank you all for being here. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, we think people need a choice. If you think about it, I mean, young people that are just entering the workforce, you know, they're not ready to buy a home. Most of them aren't ready to buy a car, but we're making them buy long-term care. I mean, we ought to give them a choice of what they do with their money. It just doesn't seem right. I have a grandson that is 18 years old. He's got a 5-week internship that started in July. They're going to take the 0.58 out of his check. You It just doesn't seem fair. We also have people that are moving into the state now, and they have a long-term care plan already, but we're making them buy a second one, or at least pay for it. That doesn't seem right. They ought to have a choice. And then the one that really surprised me in the last couple of weeks, we've received emails from several people who are retired. They were retired when this came into place, and they had an opportunity to opt out, and they were not working, and they didn't think they would ever work again, so they didn't do anything. They didn't think they would ever have a salary. Well, here we are. We got inflation that's driving the cost of everything up, and we've had two individuals that I remember that are 72 years old that are retired. They said, we never thought we'd be back working, but they both went out and got jobs. And guess what? We're taking that same 0.58 out. We think there ought to be a choice, and that's what this bill is all about, and we think it's a fair way to handle it. So with that, I'd like to introduce Senator Linda Wilson from the 17th Legislative District. Linda?
Thank you, Senator King. So, yes, we all agree that everyone needs a choice. I think we've been saying that all along. Even when the opt-out period was open, the private insurance were so inundated that they pulled out of the state. And so even people didn't have the option to go buy private insurance because the insurance companies left. So, and if you think about it, we have to start listening to the people. And the people in 2020 or 2019, there was an advisory vote on that long-term care tax program, and 63% in the state said no, they didn't want it. We need to start listening to them, and the ability to opt out now is a good idea. I think that a good percentage of the people that, like 25-year-olds, won't even be able to probably use it. They'll by the time they get to 75 years old, if they live that long, they won't even be participating in the program, which is about 56% of them is what the Milliman actuary actually said. And there's options to opt out now. And up to this point, we've had a little over 500,000 people opt out of the program. They anticipated 105,000 when this thing started. And there's probably about another almost 200,000 left to opt out for those people that the military spouses, the people that live out of state, non-immigrant visas, and the disabled vets. All of them have the opportunity to opt out of this program, and the anticipation is about 200,000. That's a lot of people that want out that we know of right now. So now I'd like to turn it over to Senator Gildon from the 25th District. Chris, there you go.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming. And I think that Senator Braun, Senator King, and Wilson did a good job of outlining, where we came from and where we are now, and why we need this particular bill. And like they said, it's all about choice. And for me, the bottom line is it's your money. It should be your choice on how you spend it. And I think that people across the state of Washington are capable of making that decision, an informed decision, and I'm glad to help them to do so. And so that's why I agreed to help out in this effort. It's because that's what the people of Washington State are asking us for.
Okay, let's go to your questions now. And if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. And looks like Melissa was first up. So Melissa Santos.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask, because I asked the WaCares people who run it about the idea of letting people opt out, and they basically said it would kill the program because it's with insurance, people need to balance each other out, people who don't need the service versus people who do. And so how do you respond to that this is essentially just sort of a backdoor way of killing the whole thing?
I mean, that may be the case. I think that remains to be seen. But the fact is, if you develop a program like this that has so many folks, and you recognize that many people understand they need to plan for this, and yet has so many folks who want to opt out, you need to rethink, did you build the right program? And this is what we've said all along. Real problem, deserves serious thought, deserves a serious policy proposal. but this proposal doesn't fit the bill. People don't like it. It doesn't work. It doesn't provide significant benefit to most of the folks who participate. In fact, if you look at the total benefit available, 36,500, that's not, even in today's market, it's not nearly enough. It's going to stay flat until the first benefits are paid, I think, in 2026, at which time it'll lose another 10 to 15% in inflation. This is a woefully inadequate program that people don't like because it's not well designed. If people opt out and therefore we have to rethink this and come up with a better policy solution, that seems like a good outcome to me.
Well, and John, I would add that there are private policies out there that are much better than what this program is putting forth. We've seen one of the major companies when they had the opportunity to offer a long-term care plan that their employees were paying much less and having much bigger benefits, and it was portable. I think that's part of the challenge. I think there truly are private policies out there that are a much better buy than what we're getting with this one, let alone the fact that, as John pointed out, inflation is amazingly eating that 36.5's ability to really make much change. I talked with a gentleman that's in my Rotary Club that owns an adult care service, and in Yakima, Washington, he does a great job, provides a great service. It's $9,000 a month. So 36.5 isn't going to take you very far.
Yeah, I just had Curtis is 100% right. I mean, I have a plan and opted out, just to be clear. I don't want to be any somehow, and I got a better benefit, a portable benefit for less money than the average payer on this. So there are better solutions already out there in the market.
Quick follow-up regarding logistics. You're asking, Democrats did not seem interested too much in revisiting this program this past legislative session. How exactly would you get them to entertain this, and why would it be different now? And if there a possible initiative that you're supporting already to repeal this at the ballot box?
So several questions. One is they weren't interested in this last session, and they got away with that simply because these people in the state of Washington have busy lives, and they didn't understand it was a delay, not a cancellation of the program. Once it starts coming out of their paycheck, my prediction is people, and we're already hearing this, we've been hearing it for the last couple of months, people are starting to recognize this program's not dead, it's coming back, and they're going to have to pay for it. So I expect there to be a lot more public pressure to reform or better yet, repeal and replace this program in the coming session. So I think that's our option to get that done. I frankly forgot your question, so maybe repeat.
Are you telling Democrats at all, hey, there have been initiatives kind of in the background. I don't know what the status is. But what about an initiative? Is that a threat you think is, something that you're telling the Democrats about, saying, hey, people might repeal this if you don't work on it with us?
Well, there is an initiative. We are limited on how much we can talk about initiatives with using legislative resources. I'm going to be careful. But, I know there is an initiative. I think it's an initiative of the legislature. I think that will certainly, if that's successful, put additional pressure on the Democratic majorities to do something about this program that's simply not going to work.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. And Joseph O'Sullivan, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I think the Senate Minority Leader just answered my question, but I'll sort of just ask it again anyway. I know that in at least one prior year, there was sort of an attempt at an initiative. Do you sense that now that the payroll tax has kicked in, people might be more focused on this as an issue?
100%. And we've seen this already. We passed in 2019, basically crickets. We talked about this till we were blue in 2019 and got almost no response because nothing's going to happen for 3 years. As we got into 2021, as this program's deadline approached, people started to learn about it, and we got a ton of feedback. the Democrats got a ton of feedback. So I think that this is going to be a high interest item. People are tired of additional taxes. And when they find additional taxes and they look to see, hey, what does this do for me or my family? And they realize it doesn't do much. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in addressing the issue.
Any follow-up, Joe?
No, thank you.
Claire Whitcomb from Bill Times. Go ahead.
Thank you. As far as possible alternatives to a program other than, making the program entirely optional, I mean, do you all have other suggestions, or are there ways in which you would work with Democrats to amend the program? And if so, what specifically would you change about it?
Well, I would just say that's one of the reasons we're proposing this bill is we're a little bit tired of getting stuck in the trap of saying, okay, if not this, then what? Well, guess what? Before we had this program, we had a private market that worked. And you could make an argument that some of the platinum plans were unaffordable, but the plans that provided a benefit at or above the level of this particular plan were very affordable, actually more affordable than this plan is. So I think we're just saying, okay, we're not going to replace it. You're determined to have this program. Let's let people choose. And if they want to participate, let them participate. If they don't want to participate, don't participate. And if that ultimately, as I said earlier, sinks the program, well, that's a pretty indication that we didn't do a very good job in our policy and we ought to rethink it. But we're not proposing a solution. We have proposed a solution. We've offered to go back to the table and work on a bipartisan plan. There was another plan proposed by Representative Stokesbury in the House that said, hey, let's rebuild the private market. Let's provide some additional underwriting from the state to make it more affordable. No interest. I think ultimately this thing gets changed and improved or replaced based on the will of the people. So let's let the people vote with their feet if they want to, and put pressure on the Democrats to come up with a better plan. We are happy. We have been at the table waiting for the other side to respond for nearly 4 years. They're just crickets. They don't want to talk about it because they know it's deeply unpopular. It's time for them to step up and deal with the problem as well.
Any follow-up, Claire?
No, thank you.
I don't see any other hands up. I want to give people another chance to ask a question. And, there we go. Melissa has a follow-up to her follow-up. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to let other people ask questions if they want to. So if anyone has one, but I do have more questions.
Well, it looks like so far,
Okay.
you're it. Go ahead.
So again, logistic question. You mentioned by the end of the year, are you proposing a special session to do this, or did I mishear that somehow as far as when you're trying to get this passed and when the bill will become before lawmakers?
We absolutely support a special session to address this issue. No question about it. Do I expect a special session? No. So I expect this is a bill that hopefully will get considered as pressure builds through the balance of this year, that there'll be some desire built up on the other side to do something about this. I am pretty confident if you brought this bill up for a vote with the current majorities today, it wouldn't pass. There's a lot of folks who voted for this bill who have regrets. So I'm hoping that we are in a position to offer another option by next, during the session in 2024. But I want to be clear. If they want to do it, a special session next week to address this issue, we're available.
When will the bill drop, do you think? Or how does it drop this early? I mean, when do you think you'll have it done and ready for whatever you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's got to go through the code revisor process. That's a little bit tougher to predict during the interim. A lot of people are on leave, so I can't give you an exact, but I expect to have a finalized bill over the next couple of weeks. And we could, I think, since we're in the middle of the 2 year, I think we can actually drop any time. We don't have to wait till cutoff or till early drop. You're testing my parliamentary knowledge. I'm not positive of that.
Thank you, Melissa. Again, I want to give everybody else an opportunity to ask a question. Just raise your hand so we know that you'd like to ask. If not, we'll go ahead and just go with some closing arguments then from Senator Brown.
Well, thank you. It seems like I apologize to my colleagues. I seem like I did all the talking here, and I didn't intend to do that. But I want to thank everybody again for showing up and for paying attention. This is an important issue. It's an important issue because it's a problem that we should be engaged in and trying to solve. But it's also an important issue because with the creation of this program that I've said several times is not likely to succeed. It's not going to provide a meaningful benefit to most of the people in the state of Washington who pay into it. It's also one more thing that's making Washington unaffordable for middle-class working families. This has taken another little bit out of their paycheck that they can't afford to lose. We shouldn't be doing things like this. We should be making their life better, not more challenging. Thank you again for being here.
And we want to let everybody know if they have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can contact me through my email or give us a call, and we'll get those answers back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you all for being here, and have a very good afternoon.